otherworldlyculture.com.
They're here.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Otherworldlyculture.com presents Dead On Movie Reviews.
Almost forgot to let the guy laugh. Salutations and mutilations. You're listening to Otherworldly Culture presents Dead On Movie Reviews. Tonight, we will present horror movie reviews and lively debate here on otherworldlyculture.com and on future select Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join our live chat at that time by clicking on the live shows link on the otherworldlyculture.com website. I'm your host, Tim Gretschman, coming to you from the land of lakes and landfills, beautiful and smelly Muskego, Wisconsin. It's my honor to introduce the Faculty of Fear panel presenting tonight's lectures, What Just Happened to Mike? Mike, are you there? Why is this not showing up now?
I can see him.
I see him.
You do?
I see everybody.
I don't see him. Wow. Okay, I'm really irritated. Why did that happen? Mike? I can't hear him. Okay, I'm hearing him. Let me see here. I do not know what. There we go. Woo! There we go. Well, let's start there. Hailing from the Motor City, Detroit, Michael Cieslak is a lifetime reader and writer of horror, mystery, and speculative fiction. He has served as an officer in the Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers and is the editor of the Eerie Tales anthologies. Michael is the editor-in-chief of Dragon's Roost Press, and his works have appeared in a number of collections, including DOA Extreme Horror, Dead Science, Vicious Verses, and Reanimated Rhymes, and the collaborative steampunk novel Army of Brass. He is a kilt enthusiast, and he's killing it over at the dragonsroost.net. Michael Cieslak!
And is the owner of the world's longest introduction!
Oh no, we've added some here. Well, in fact, let's go to the longest introduction. Tracey DeLeon has been in over 11 films, a good friend of the show, and numerous appearances here, and it's a thrill to have her on the show again and with us tonight. She is the denizen diva of the disturbing, who frequently partakes in films quite unnerving. She always gives you the straight dope and goes into every film with a glimmer of hope. She is afraid to go ankles deep into a flick and call out douchetards for being a prick. Now it's my pleasure to set out all our eyes upon our panelist tonight, Tracey DeLeon. I forgot that was going to be final. And now we're going to go right back up, and we're going to go to Peggy Christie. She's an author from Michigan that's written books like Hell Hath No Fury, Dark Doorways, and contributed to the short story collections Eerie Tale, Myths, and Mayhem. She's been known to be prone to sudden bursts of violence and can conjure supernatural forces by using an ancient Mesopotamian amulet given to her by a cross-eyed gorilla during a camping trip to Omro, Wisconsin. You can check her out at themonkeyisin.com. Everything I say on this show is absolutely true. You can fact check me. So, we've got a lot of great movies tonight. I think we're going to start with Peggy because it's the one movie I know nothing about, and I really am just too enthused to find out about this film. So, Peggy, what have you been watching over there?
I have been watching the 2011 film called Exit Humanity, directed by John Geddes, and it's also written by him. I don't really know much else that he has done, except he was producer on Monster Brawl. That's about all I know. But it stars...
Well, that's nothing to brag about.
What's that?
That's nothing to brag about.
Well, it was actually quite funny, but never mind.
It was funny. It was funny, yeah.
Yeah, but this film stars someone I had never heard of, and I don't think I've seen anything else that he's been in. Mark Gibson as Edward, Dee Wallace as Eve, and Bill Moseley as General, I think it's General Williams.
What are you talking about? You've seen Dee Wallace before. You've seen Bill Moseley.
Yeah, I haven't seen Mark Gibson.
Mark Gibson was one of the guys that created Family Feud. Mark Gibson, Bill Toldman production.
Okay. Going now.
Another true thing here on the show.
Okay,
Nothing but truth.
Anyway, the basic story is about a guy, Mark Gibson, who plays Edward. It's Edward who has now survived the Civil War. He was a soldier in the rebel army, and there is now this zombie apocalypse, and he's kind of has to navigate the world and survive. That's kind of the short and dirty of it. Most of it, what's really cool about this film is most of it is the live action, but we have a voiceover by none other than Brian Cox, who plays a descendant of Edward. During the film, Edward keeps a journal of everything that's going on, and then Brian Cox's character is his descendant, and he's like, well, this apocalypse, this undead apocalypse is still going on today, so maybe this journal can kind of help us get an understanding of what the hell is happening. So it kind of goes back and forth between like the voiceovers in the present, even though it's reading the journal, and then the action of the film is actually taking place in the past. So it's more like a flashback kind of setup.
Okay.
And there's also some, like 3 or 4 times throughout the film, there are some animation sequences that kind of show, and it's funny because you think like the animation and the voiceovers would distract because it's like, oh, it's not showing us the action, it's telling us. But at the same time, we're actually seeing the action as it's happening. So it's like Brian's just kind of narrating as to what's happening. And it actually enhances it. It does not detract from the film at all. At least I don't think so. I think the acting in this, even though, like I said, I'd never heard of Mark Gibson, he carries this film so well. And it's like even the first 20 minutes or so, he doesn't really talk. He's just emoting. And then you have a lot of the voiceover from Brian Cox. But he does such a fantastic job of playing this character. And he's so sympathetic. And you're so behind him. And you're so rooting for him. And actually, the character development in general is actually pretty good. Because when you get to those points where characters are killed or they die or whatever, and you're upset about it, or you're actually, yay, I'm glad that guy's dead. It just kind of shows that, you know, the writing is actually done very, very well throughout the story. I think the actual original score is perfect through every scene. It's, you know, soft and romantic when it needs to be, when he's thinking about his wife, or it's very sad and dramatic when it, I'm going to try not to spoil too much going on here too, but, you know, people die, characters, it's very sad, but that's what, you know.
Hold on. You said you weren't going to spoil anything. And then you tell us people die in the zombie film. What the actual?
What's interesting, though, is this movie came out the year after The Walking Dead started on TV, so they don't actually call anything a zombie. They call them, what do they call them? They call them dead walks. I'm like, ooh, not Walking Dead, dead walks. I'm like,
dead walks?
May have been a little bit of coattail riding on this, but that's okay. That's okay.
Dead walk sounds a little too much like Ewok for my liking.
Yeah, a little bit. Or they call them dead walkers, which is Walking Dead. I mean, it's a little bit of a ripoff, but you know, that's okay.
Right,
that's
right.
Okay. But speaking of acting, Bill Moseley plays the general. He's this a rebel. Well, there is no rebel army anymore, but he won't let go.
Okay.
He seems to think that they can find a cure, so he's got a couple of his soldiers that are going out grabbing people so that they can experiment on them. But this was the first movie I saw Bill Moseley act in that I knew he could act. I saw him in the Rob Zombie films before this,
Yeah.
and I was just like, all of this is total trash. And then I saw him in this film, and I thought, holy shit, this guy actually can act, because he plays this character very, very, like, kind of, he seems like he's even-keeled until he gets kind of mad or pissed off about something, but otherwise he's very insidious.
Mhm.
He's very kind of just playing it on the surface, and you're like, what the fuck is this guy's deal? And then he's fucking batshit crazy. But you don't really, he plays it like right here the whole time, like except for a couple scenes. So he actually does such a great job. And yeah, so I was like, so that's when I realized that directors have a huge impact on the performances they get out of their actors. And I'm sorry to I'm not sorry to anyone who likes Rob Zombie. That's cool. You can like him all you want. But as a director, he's shit. As far as I'm concerned, because Bill Moseley did a superb job in this film, and Rob Zombie was not involved. I'm sorry, correlation causation, but it's true. So, just want to get that out there, okay?
Yeah, I think Rob Zombie has been given a tremendous pass over the years.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. I don't see the excellence in the scripts. I don't see the excellence in his filmmaking.
Yep, I agree.
I think what people are liking with the Rob Zombie movies are, well, they're gritty and gory, and they just want lots and lots of grit and gore. And I'm like, well, that's great, but I want more out of my movies. I'm sorry.
And sometimes that's something you want to see. You just want to see gore. I get that.
Right.
But if that's all you do, that's all he does.
Yeah.
There is no depth to anything Rob Zombie does.
Yeah, I
That's
think
just
that
how I feel.
there's a couple of his movies where he doesn't have his crutches, like he doesn't have Halloween behind him. He doesn't have Bill Moseley and Sid Haig. And when you see those movies, it really starts to show how much he's leaning on those guys over and over again. So.
And I don't think he ever utilized Bill Moseley to his full potential. So who knows what else he's not getting out of the other actors that he's used, which is really sad to say, because I know people who've been in his films are good. I've always liked Sid Haig.
Yeah.
He
was fantastic in Jason of the Star Command.
What?
You guys don't know that? Every time I saw Sid Haig at a convention, I brought up Jason in the Star Command, which was a Saturday morning show where he played the heavy. And he played a character called Dragos that had a laser eye and would zap people like a cyclops type thing. It was fantastic. As a child, he terrorized my life. So I always, every time his name comes up, I bring that up. Or I bring up, I really love Diamonds Are Forever, which he was fantastic in that movie as one of the henchmen. So,
gotcha.
little Sid Haig for you.
Right. There's only a couple things that I can say that are a little not great about this film. The runtime, it's almost 2 hours. It's a little long in the tooth. There's a lot of, just like when he's studying the zombies or when they're going out having to kill zombies, there's a lot of stuff that's just way too long. It's like, we kind of got the point halfway through. We don't need you to harp on it, so they could have cut out quite a bit of that, I think, and it wouldn't have hurt the film in any way. And then sometimes when the voiceovers, particularly towards the end, Brian Cox's speeches were just kind of getting longer, and there were like these generic platitudes, like those generic quotes you see on shit at Michael's at the craft store. It's just like, oh my god, could we just stop with the cheesy inspirational shit?
Now, did you just call Michael shit? What just happened here? Did you just call Michael shit? There? You just said it's just like shitting on Michael or something.
Tim, pay attention.
Oh, okay.
Just
Sorry.
pay attention.
Sorry, I get tired at the end of the day.
I do have to say, though, Dee Wallace had quite a few really cool, like, quotes in the film. And I think one that she had is basically the inspiration for why, like, a lot of this stuff is happening in the film. She says, trying to forget someone you love is like trying to remember someone you never knew. And it's completely impossible is the answer. So it's like her motivation for why things are happening, Edward's motivations for why things are happening, why like the character Isaac is doing it. That's actually a lot of like the key to why people are doing things, at least the good guys. The bad guys are just crazy. So it's like, and that's fine. But overall though, I think this is something I can't believe nobody else has like talked about this film or anything. I met Dee Wallace, I think years ago at a convention, and she had a picture from this film on her table, and I was like, holy shit, I recognize that. But nobody ever talks about it, and I don't know why. Because it's a really well done film, I think.
Okay.
It's very emotional, it's very well written, the character development is great. I think it's just all over a pretty good film.
See, Dee Wallace, you know, talking about actors and actresses that aren't getting their full potential all the time. Poor Dee Wallace has been put in the cheapy movie sewer for far too long, in my opinion. I mean, this is somebody that was in one of the biggest grossing movies of all time. She's made a lot of great flicks, and it seems like she just gets called for a lot of movies that are beneath her. And I'm glad to hear she had something to do in this one.
Yeah, her character, you think like she's just, okay, she's now this other character that's just kind of come in halfway through, but it's like her character is the big reveal. Like she brings out the big reveal towards the end of the film, and you're like, holy shit! So
we're away from spoiling. Now we're spoiling.
No, because I didn't tell you what it was.
Okay.
But she's more key than you think she is.
Okay.
She's not just like, oh, she's just helping this guy because he got shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Pivotal character.
Well, am I reading this right? Is it time to go to the grade book?
Yes, I believe it is.
All right. And I press the button. And we sit and we wait. There it comes.
There we go. I am going to give this an A-.
Wow.
Just knocking off a couple of points for the runtime and for the...
Why did that just come up D-?
I don't
there
know.
There it goes, A-.
It's for Dee Wallace.
Yeah.
Honest to God, the machine is going crazy.
Yeah.
There it goes, A-.
There you go.
Oh,
I have
my
a feeling
God.
that Tim's done that with his own report card in the past.
I don't know how that happened.
I don't know. Well, sometimes I will admit, guys, I a lot of times I kind of guess where you're going to be coming out, and I look at this. Look at Mike again. What is going on?
Logo. Oh no!
Now he's going again. Okay, I don't know what's happening. But I will hover my finger over the button and be ready, and then you guys surprise me, and something that sounded like a B review all of a sudden is a D-, and I'm like, what? And I'm hitting the wrong things. But I was up by the A's this time. I figured you were in the B+ to A area, and
I was debating between B+ and A-, actually.
Were you? Okay. There goes Mike again.
Security.
Should we try to go to Mike? Let's try to go to Mike.
Let's see what happens.
Mike, what have you... Mike? What have you been watching? Look at this. Okay, give me a moment. We're going to try to fix this on the fly. And apply. It should be going through. You didn't change your Skype ID. I can see that. Wow. Try talking. Maybe it's not picking up.
Is it picking me up on the audio at all?
Yeah, the audio is going just fine.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, God.
I don't know what's going on But what are you watching is the big question.
I rewatched for the first time in probably a long time the film Lifeforce from 1985.
Space vampires.
Based on the novel Space Vampires by Colin Wilson. There we go. We'll throw in the fun quote right here. Toby Hooper said that the title Space Vampires sounded like an Italian film from 10 years ago, so we're changing the name. I got all these extra quotes this time because I watched the Shout version, which I purchased at a horror convention like 4 or 5 years ago and never actually got around to opening. So I thought, hey, yeah, it's available for streaming, so why don't I crack this open? And, I don't have a DVD player hooked up. I'll throw it in the PlayStation. And then I had to figure out how to use the PlayStation controls to run the movie. And I finally watched it. That's the point. I finally
This is sounding pathetic.
It just blowing dust off of stuff downstairs was horrible. I watched the director's cut. I'm not sure which one is available online or if you have a choice. If you have a choice, this is going to go against pretty much anything I've ever said. I would go with the theatrical cut. The director's cut has about 15 extra minutes in it, and I think about 13 of those are unnecessary.
Okay, I do need to ask, do any of those 15 minutes include you-know-who?
I kind of doubt it. I think it's...
Oh, well then it's not worth it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's a lot of extraneous spacewalk scenes and driving around. By the end of the film, even knowing where it was going, it did start to feel a little long. However, it does begin wonderfully. I had completely forgotten that Mancini scored this film with the London Symphony Orchestra.
Oh,
So
really?
it's like a big boom. Oh, wow, that's right. This isn't small time here. This is big stuff. The director's cut has a voiceover, which neither here nor there at the very beginning, but it explains that the space shuttle looking craft, but it's got an extra pair of fins on it and a little spout out of the bottom that creates artificial gravity. We'll get into the science stuff at the end.
Science!
It's a joint U.S. and U.K. Program to visit Halley's Comet. I believe it was a U.S. and U.K. Program because they had American and British actors that were in this.
Okay.
This is a Golden Globus production. Something else that I had forgotten. This is going to be right up there with Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yes!
Best
What?
one ever.
What was it? Embassy? What was the name of their thing? I forget. I think it was Embassy. Yeah, I'll check it. You keep going.
They get towards the comet and they realize that there's this 14-mile long thing that is in the comet's corona. So naturally, they go fly in there.
Oh, cannon.
A couple of the astronauts go on an EVA and they fly into this giant ship, which is desperately trying not to look like the alien scene.
Is it?
It's very much
Is it?
biological looking without that extra mechanical Geiger stuff added into it. They come across the occupants of the spaceship, which is like 6 foot tall bat creature people, like humanoid bat people. And they probably break the finger off of one of them because, hey, we're sciencey explorers. Punch him right in the head. There's a light. They follow the light. You never follow the light. It's a Toby Hooper movie. You know not to go into the light. But anyway, they go into the light. They find these 3 crystal things with these 3 really attractive people in them. And they say, hey, here's a good idea. Let's haul all these back to the ship and get out of here. 30 days pass. There's no communication between Earth and the spaceship. They're worried that something's gone wrong. Something has gone horribly wrong. Churchill, which is the name of the ship, like the U.S. would ever let them name a space shuttle Churchill, comes into Earth orbit, so they send up, which one was it? They send up the Columbia, and I believe they actually used footage of a Columbia launch, and they connect with the thing, and they find out that the interior of the shuttle that had gone to Halley's Comet is completely burnt up. It is trash. There's just obviously been a huge fire there. You've got some cool floating corpses, and you've got these three perfect people in the crystal containers. They bring the crystal containers back, and now the space vampires are on Earth.
Wow.
I just have some lovely. This movie came out in 1985, and I really, really liked it in 1985. It's kind of problematic a little bit later. One of my favorite quotes is, "She had the most overwhelmingly feminine presence I've ever encountered. It was horrible."
It was
And she had two of them.
I was laughing so hard. So they have these three crystal containers with the bodies in them that are perfectly preserved. They go to
yeah, they are.
They're dead.
Okay.
They're not. They go and the worst guards, the Space Research Center in Great Britain, in the outskirts of London. Horrible guards. The guy's actually standing with his back to the window for a lot of it. But the one guard goes in. The lady wakes up in the scene that we've all seen. Matilda May, who does most of her scenes nude. Part of the reason that there's some lovely stuff in the commentary about how they had flown a bunch of models over from the continent to interview for this, and one of the models said, "We should not do all these nude scenes. This is ridiculous that they're going to have these nude scenes." So they kind of unionized, and all of the people refused to do the nude scenes except the one that first proposed it. So she took everyone else out of the running. This was not This was not Matilda May, who eventually got the part and kind of had to learn English on the fly for it. But,
nobody was waiting for her to talk. I'm just telling you.
She grabs the guard and sucks his life force out of him, leaving a desiccated corpse behind. She then does the same thing to, I forgot his name, Colonel Kane, who was our investigator guy.
Was it Steve Railsback?
No, that Railsback played the
other guy
actually on the shuttle. He
Yeah.
was the U.S. guy. Peter Firth plays the one who's doing all of the investigating.
Yes. Okay.
So she gets out by basically knocking down two guards while a third one just watches her walk away.
I cannot blame the guard on that one. Cannot blame them.
They are the worst guards.
They're just getting ready to be stormtroopers later on.
Pretty much.
No.
We find out that the escape pod from the Churchill had launched. That hasn't landed yet, so they don't know what's happening with that. Excuse me. 2 hours later, the guard who had become completely desiccated and we assumed was dead comes back to life right as they're about to autopsy him with no personal protection equipment on at all. No one's wearing a mask. No one's wearing goggles. Only one person has gloves on. They're just going to cut into this guy who has been exposed to some kind of space something that left him a dried husk. Sure, that makes sense. And all the doctors just cringe back in fear as he sucks the life force out of the doctor. And they capture both of them and they throw them in pens, and we get to see him later on. Just kind of skipping a little bit because I don't want to give all of the plot points away. Railsback's character is on the escape pod, and we find out that he has kind of like a mental connection with the person who is credited as Space Girl. And because she had given him part of her life force while she took part of his life force. So he kind of is able to figure out where she is. Another wonderful quote that I have here starred Colonel Kane, the inspector for the British Secret Service, or Special Air Service, sorry, he's the SAS. They find a dead body in Hyde Park. It's not her. It's someone else that she has stolen the clothes from. And he looks in the camera and says, "Now she's got clothes." And again, I've lost my shit laughing because it's so completely serious.
Actually, when she got clothes, she loses a little of her power.
After she gets clothes, you don't see her much anymore.
No! There's no need to!
Discovered that she has the ability to jump bodies and take her consciousness into someone else. And she takes her body into Ellen, who is a nurse at a psychiatric facility run by real-life vampire Patrick Stewart, because he looks the same in 1985 as he does right now.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. And
Yes,
I completely
he does.
forgot that Patrick Stewart was in this, and I got so excited. And I'm a huge we find out that her consciousness has again jumped out in another perhaps problematic scene where we find Carlson, the Railsback character, says, "She's an extreme masochist. She wants me to beat the information out of her." And I'm like, oh, Jesus, what the hell? I don't remember it being so weird. One of the other doctors has figured out that they can be killed with a, let me get the exact quote, a lead-covered iron sword is what he used.
Okay.
It's not a wooden stake, but he thinks this is where all of the vampire lore has come from. This is Dr. Hans Fallada, played by Frank Finlay, who is a biochemist, but is also an expert in death. That's right, he's a death expert. He wants to know what happens when we die, how we die, what happens after we die. He feels like the life force. Everyone take a drink, title drop.
Oh, credits.
It continues.
God.
So he's determined that they can actually be killed if they are stabbed 2 inches below the heart in the life center. We
Well,
find this
that's
out
where you
because
stab them.
the male vampires had woken up. Again, I have pointed out that there's the worst guards in the world.
Right.
Shot him. Nothing happens to them. So they chucked a grenade at him. Why do
Right.
these security guards have grenades? I don't know. But these two had also sent their consciousness out.
Because they know their aim. That's why they have a grenade. Their
They
boss
have-
has seen them shoot. Here's a pineapple grenade.
They had the squib work there. The doctor has killed one of the guards who had the consciousness of the vampire in it. The other one has gone to London to see the Queen. I don't know. And this is one of the problems that I'm having with the film that Peggy did not have with hers, because it showed the action while it was talking about it. And there's a lot of stuff that happens that we find out about afterwards. We find out about most of the problems on the shuttle while a bunch of British guys are talking around a table. We do get to see a little bit of the burned up corpses. That was kind of cool. This whole thing with the guards having switched consciousness and him stabbing him, we found out as the doctor is talking on the phone with a portion of the guard with a sword sticking out of him in the foreground. There's a lot of stuff that happens simply off screen and we get told about it. And then I had started calling Railsback's character Colonel Exposition, because through his beautiful psychic connection, he knew a lot of stuff that they just didn't have to try to figure out. Long story short, she's sucking all the life force. This is kind of started to spread exponentially. Third act, we kind of go from being a vampire movie into more of a zombie apocalypse set, because someone gets their life force sucked out of them. 2 hours later, they come back. They kill 2 friends. They kill 2 friends, and so on and so on. And everyone's using the same shampoo. And The streets of London are crazy. We find out that martial law has been declared by the helicopter pilot who, for some reason, is listening to BBC radio when he's flying the helicopter. I don't know what's going on anymore. There's so much stuff that I don't understand. But there's big blue lights. Everyone's life force is getting sucked into the space girl, who's then sending it up to the spaceship, which is now in geosynchronous orbit over Earth or over London. But you can't have geosynchronous orbit over London. It has to be over the equator. But we're going to ignore that like all the other space stuff. And stuff happens, and then it ends. Kind of abruptly.
At the ending, it ends.
Actual ending. Just in case someone hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah,
It was fun.
That's the right term for this movie. Shall I go to the grade book?
I just have one more quote that I have to throw out here. It's from Patrick Stewart, who was being interviewed on a late night talk show and was asked what his first on-screen kiss was. He thought about it for a minute and said, "I'm pretty sure it was Steve Railsback."
That is so awesome. Now, I actually watched this past week Quatermass and the Pit. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That movie, some people believe Lifeforce is kind of a remake of that movie and
I can see that, yeah.
And Space Vampires the book. In my mind, this is a better movie than Quatermass in the Pit. I tuned out about halfway through that movie. This movie is well, I'll let you grade it, and then I'm going to tell you what I think of it, because I have a lot of opinions on this film, and I haven't watched it in 10 years. But what are you going to grade Lifeforce at?
I'm going to give it a B-. I mean, it has its issues. A lot of the science stuff is just, you have to suspend your disbelief really hard as soon as it starts, and then you're okay.
Yeah. That's exactly my thing with this movie has always been, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff happening at once, but none of it make any sense. It has this nice build-up going where, okay, she's this, and here's the vampires, and they kind of explain the lore, and then all of a sudden the entire world is at war.
Yes. Like the 2/3 of the way point, it goes, okay, we're still sort of on the rails. Let's jump completely. And then when the third act kicks in fully and everything is just gone crazy, I have to say some of the effects, though, especially considering that, it was
85.
Backtrack. The practical effects,
Yeah.
puppetry work is, especially when you've got the corpses on the autopsy table and they're attacking people, that looks amazing. Some of these dead bodies just have all the juices sucked out of them, look really, really good.
Right.
They always remind me of not Night of the Living Dead, but Return of the Living
Dead. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
The non-practical effects, like Halley's Comet in the sky over London.
Yeah.
Oh, did that not age well?
Yeah, the amazing part is John Dykstra was the head of the effects on this thing, and he was just one of the main guys for Star Wars. And I believe this was Industrial Light and Magic. I'm not sure. They spent a shit ton of money on this movie. And I have always wondered, and to me it doesn't feel like a Tobe Hooper movie. I don't know what it feels like, but it isn't anything like Texas Chainsaw. It isn't anything like Poltergeist. I don't know what it is.
There's flying lights around. That happens in Poltergeist.
Okay, well, it happens in Close Encounters, too. It was very slick. And Tobe Hooper tends to be a little more gritty. We were talking about that earlier. That's kind of the feel that I got from his stuff, particularly his early. And this one, I don't know what happened on that movie set, but I believe it was chemically induced. And our other Mike Exler, had one of his greatest interviews with Steve Railsback one time. And I don't think he's over whatever the hell he took back then. He came out with the beauty, and I'll never forget this. He said on a number of times, you can't act the negative. And no matter how many times we asked him what the hell that means, he would say, you just can't act the negative. It just kept coming up and up and up. It was a great time for us, but I like Steve Railsback, but holy cow. He overacts in this movie just a smidge. It's almost like somebody put Nicolas Cage in the film by accident. With his acting. It is amazing. All right. Well, glad to have that one. That was one of the first VHS cassettes that I owned. I know that. That's why I knew John Dykstra, because I read the back of that box so many freaking times. And I remember watching the movie and reading the back of the box going, there's got to be an explanation. What's going on in this movie? I hope there's some sort of like chart to explain this to me.
I am sorely tempted to try to track down the novel Space Vampires and just to see
no,
how the original source material reads.
Don't do it.
You sound like my wife now. We
Don't do it. I was shocked when I found that out about Quartermass in the Pit, and I just don't see it. But because I had not seen that movie yet, and I knew you were doing this one, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this thing. And I mean, they both have aliens in them. I just don't know. All right, Tracey, it's your turn. What have you been watching?
I've been watching Stephen King's Christine.
Wow! Fantastic. So tell us, what is Christine all about?
It's actually about a nerdy teenager who buys this evil possessed car, and then he just kind of turns into this evil possessed person that the car controls.
Wow. Okay. And
I love the beginning though. The music in it.
Bad to the bone.
Productions coming, and then it just jumps right into death. Just silent.
Let's get right to the murder.
Right to. Well, do you want me to tell you about the people? So it's Columbia Pictures produced it. I believe it was Bill Phillips who wrote the screenplay, although it is a Stephen King novel. You have John Stockwell as Dennis, who is the best friend. Keith Gordon, who is the main character, and then his girlfriend, Leia. I believe her name is Alexandria, but I don't remember her last name right now.
Okay.
Actually, I was surprised because I did not remember that Kelly Preston was actually in it. And I seen her and I was like, oh, Lord, there's Kelly Preston. She was great. She was really good in that. I mean, it's Kelly Preston. Anyway, so it starts off with, really good music. The guys on the line making the cars. Almost all of them are white except Christine. Because Christine stands out. She's got to stand out, right?
Right.
So the first guy starts fiddling with something like underneath the hood. And the radio comes on because that's her signature. And whap goes down the hood and his hand's all messed up. And then another gentleman gets in the car with a cigar. And he's just doesn't care about it at all. So he flicks his ashes. And then the next thing you know, guess what comes on? Radio. And then the bell rings for everybody to go home. And the guy's walking around and he's like, I hearing something. And he goes up to Christine and he opens the door and out comes the dead guy with a cigar in his mouth. Kind of like, what just happened? Anyway, so it continues on. And then after that, you see Dennis and Arnie is his name. They talk back and forth. You see him come out of the house. He's just this nerdy kid. pocket protector, glasses, oh, yes, mom, I'm yes, and he's just a mess. I'll just put it like that. But his best friend's very well kept together, drives an excellent car, by the way, and off to school they go. So on the way home from school, they are driving by this one kind of dilapidated house. I said it wrong. That's okay. And they see Christine, and he's like, no, go back, Dennis, go back. I want to see what that was. So they get out and they examine the car, and he's absolutely in love with this vehicle. In love. He's got to have it. And his friend's like, why do you want this car? It doesn't even run. Look at it. I mean, you can go and get a different car. But he is dead set on getting Christine.
Right.
So he brings her home, and the mom is absolutely, no, this car is not parked in my driveway, not up front. So what they do is they find a garage, and they go in there where he's able to repair it and just whatever. So
right.
Repaired, and she's fixed. He's driving around doing things, and then I forgot the best part, the fight at the beginning, you guys.
Okay.
All right. Third guy bullied in school by a bunch of bullies.
Right.
And
standard Stephen King bullies.
Yep.
Yes.
Check.
Yep.
And they're out for vengeance. They want to get him back for saying, yes, he had a knife on him and blah, blah, blah. Because he did have a knife, the bully. And he pulled him out and he ruined his lunch, his yogurt lunch. Oh, no. So, okay, back to where I was. It's at the garage, and he is fixing the car. And the garage guy's, pretty shitty to him at first, but he kind of grows on him. And while he's fixing his car, the garage guy lets him use his car. Oh gosh, guys, I lost where I was going. My dog's just being... He's needy. Okay, so after it's fixed, he gets the best girl. You start to see his demeanor change. He starts slicking back his hair, wearing cool clothes, and he's cussing at his mom and dad and just being all bad like Christine, So he goes once and he parks the car and he leaves the garage door open, and the bullies sneak in. They sneak into Christine and they hide while he walks out. And what they do is they completely destroy this car, and they even shite on the dashboard. So Christine don't like that, and she remembers. And when he gets there with his girlfriend Leah, he kind of starts to take on the attitude of her, like right away. He shoves the girlfriend, get away from her. He starts to be pretty volatile. And all of a sudden, he just steps back from the car. He's like, okay, let's see what you can do. And then all of a sudden, radio comes on, lights pop on. Christine just starts fixing herself. And even for 1983, those are some good freaking... I love this film because of that. I mean, I don't think this film could age with effects. It's so good. But she repairs herself, and she finds the first guy who used a sledgehammer on her. So she's chasing him around and around, and she damages herself, of course, because she can do that, because obviously she can repair herself. So she smashes the crap out of this kid after running forever and ever. I don't know how he kept up, but anyway.
Right. Because it's a car.
Yeah. So eventually he ended up in like a, what do you call those, where trucks back up and an unloading dock. And the car can't reach him, so he's like, ha, ha, ha. So he pulls out his knife, and he's like, I'm going to get you, Cuntingham, because that's what they call him. Not Cunningham, which is his last name. They call him Cuntingham.
Yeah. It's very nice.
Fitting.
Yeah.
Whatever. So all of a sudden, Christine's like, okay. And then you just see the car start slowly pushing into the dock. And next thing you know, the guy's smashed and he's dead. And I am leaving quite a lot out, because if someone had...
Yeah.
Anyway, so after that one dies, you really start to see the deterioration of Arnie. Like, just obsessed with this car. It has become part of him. So he goes and finds the other two gentlemen. And as he is chasing them down in a car, which, by the way, is a Camaro SS, and that is the best car. It's like, man, if I could just take that car, just give me that car. But anyway, he follows him quite a lot, and they're chasing each other pretty bad throughout streets, back roads, and then they end up at a gas station where one of the bullies works. And the guy parks his Camaro, and this really hurt when I saw this again. The shit out of the SS. Like, just completely demolishing it. And then all of a sudden, she just throws it into the garage, and then it starts leaking gasoline. And then, of course, it catches fire. Two of the bullies are in there. The one main bully is outside just watching this, like, what is happening. He's just doesn't understand what's going on. It blows up. Christine's on fire now. She's just fucking on fire. And comes out and goes after this one guy. And I think this scene is actually kind of cool. I don't know how they, but it was just, you see him running and running and running, and then you see her flaming ass coming after him, and the next thing you know, flaming ass is going all the other way underneath the car. So she killed all the bullies, and she drives herself back to the garage, and she parks. But what she doesn't realize is that the owner of the garage is actually there, and he sees it. So after she parks, he's like, who the hell's driving this car? What's going on? And he's trying to help Arnie because of the people who, you know, demolished it before. So he gets in, and guess what comes on? The radio. So he eventually dies, and all the cops come in, and then Arnie comes in to drop off whatever it is he was supposed to drop off. I think it was parts. I can't really remember right now. But the cops are like, could you tell us where you were? And they started questioning him. And he's like, I was at home. You can ask my mom. You know, so they don't understand what exactly is going on because this car has been involved in so many different things. And it's been, you know, the car's in perfect, immaculate condition. What's going on?
Right.
So, you know, of course he denies everything. And then the girlfriend leaves Arnie and goes to his friend Dennis. And Dennis is the one who actually wanted to date Leah first. Anyway, she tells him, I think something's really wrong with Arnie. I think something's going on with this car. This car is controlling him. Something needs to happen. So they come up with a plan to just demolish the car because they think that will solve Arnie's problems and his bad demeanor.
But does violence ever really fix anything?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, sometimes.
Well, as you know, Peggy is known for sometimes sudden bursts of violence due to that supernatural amulet she got from the cross-eyed gorilla.
Hey, give me some of that.
Yeah.
So all in all, you know, it's a really good movie. I'm not going to ruin the end, but
now you made it this far without mentioning John Carpenter. That this is a John Carpenter movie.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's one of the things when I see this movie. It even says, I think, on the opening credits, I think it does say John Carpenter's, Christine, instead of Stephen King's. Yeah, it says that instead of Stephen King's. But it really, I think one of you in the chat said that this is your favorite Stephen King adaptation, and this is definitely one of mine. I think it's really, really well done.
I had to beg my mom. I was only like 9 years old when it came out, so I had to beg my mom, please just let me watch it. And of course, she'd be like this. I'm like, oh my gosh, come on. It's always been one that has stuck with me. One of the Stephen King movies that has just, I love it. It's one of the best ones out there. I really believe it. And again, it's timeless. You can't. It's great. It's an A+, Tim.
A+. Holy cow! Wow. I think Mike is agreeing with you there. It is a really solid movie. I think everybody should catch that one.
Hopefully I didn't give the spoils away.
Yeah, I saw it. Of course, Mike's gone again. But it is one. I think it's streaming on multiple platforms. I think I checked. I do know it's on Amazon for sure. So check it out. And now it's time for my movie. It looks like we're going to go a little bit long tonight. But I found this movie. I found the movie Patrick from 1978. I found out about this movie watching a documentary, actually, called Not Quite Hollywood, The Wild Untold Story of Ozploitation. And it was all about Australian movies that were an exploitation type. And this horror film was featured in there. The first scene in the movie is this young man. He throws an electric heater into a bathtub containing his frisky parents. And they are taken out of commission very quickly in the movie. It's something about this main character, Patrick. He doesn't blink throughout the entire film. Because the next time you see him, he's in a coma. His eyes are completely open, which usually in comas, they close your eyelids. One of the problems I have with the movie is, how did his eyes not just dry out? They didn't really do anything to him to help him. But the basic story is a young nurse is brought on to watch over him in the coma ward. And he's been in a coma, I believe, for 3 years with his eyes open the entire time. And that he has his eyes open, that's what makes it creepy. Is that you see him just staring, and you can see it in basically every picture we have in our collage, that he's just staring and he looks horrid the whole time. And you also listen to a machine breathing for him that sounds a little bit like Darth Vader as it goes. Outside of his window, they have a sign that says emergency entrance. And as neon signs do in horror movies, it blinks and part of the letters go out and you only see the word trance underneath the word. Get it? Because he's in a coma? Do you get it? That's comedy there. Actually, this movie was the basis of an homage in the Kill Bill movies when Uma character is hospitalized and she can only spit to communicate. And that's something with Patrick here. He can only spit as a reflex that he's able to do that. Well, that's what you think anyway. But anybody that has seen this type of movie, you immediately figure out that Patrick has some special powers. And at the time, this was made in 1978, this was part of a whole lot of movies that had telekinetic type of characters. You had Carrie came out, The Fury, Firestarter, Scanners, The Dead Zone. There were a lot of movies right about that time that came out, and he has these telekinetic powers, and people are just dying around him. The acting, okay. The problem is this is a pretty talky movie, not a lot of activity. That's kind of, what you're getting yourself into because it's about a coma patient that's laying in a bed. So there isn't going to be a lot of sweeping scenes where a little red dot goes across the globe. It's going to be pretty much in that that hospital room. It was directed by Richard Franklin, which is interesting because it got some Alfred Hitchcock vibes off the way it was made. It had some strong Psycho feel and Rear Window that you got off of it. And he went on to make Psycho 2, actually, in 1983. But he's also the director behind Cloak and Dagger and FX2, which I was like, that is random, because FX2 is my guilty pleasure movie. The first FX is legitimately a good, low-budget action movie. FX2 has no reason to be any good, and yet I love that movie. It's so stupid, but I love that freaking movie, and you can tell this guy has great suspense chops. Here's the problem. The movie is, I think, 90 minutes long. That's a little longer than I'm willing to watch a guy lay in a bed. You better have, I mean, I expected a slow burn. I expected it to take time. But it was just a little too much to ask of the audience for me. And when it finally does pay off, it's a jump scare, and you kind of shrug your shoulders and you say, okay. And it's pretty obvious. You could probably guess what the big scare is going to be in the movie about a guy that never moves, right? So it's kind of like you go, well, it's supposed to be a big surprise, and by the time it happens, you kind of go, well, yeah, of course, that's how you're going to end the story. So it's I wanted to like it more than I actually did. It's actually a little bit on the dull side for me. I didn't like the characters, and I heard that the main character, the nurse, was supposed to be Jenny Agutter from American Werewolf in London. For some reason, she couldn't do it. So I don't know if I would have liked it more with her. I suspect not. I think it's more of a script problem, and it was just a little too long. I do have to give it a C-. It's got some actual chills in there. There's some stuff that happens.
Shock therapy?
I'm sorry? Say again?
Are they giving him shock therapy in one of the clips?
Yes, they gave him a little bit of the old juice to try to fix him up right proper. But it didn't work really well, kind of like Mike's Skype for me tonight. I think that's on you. I think somehow it's fallen asleep or something for me. So we'll just do that.
A better picture anyway.
And more animated as it would be. But, yeah, I would say, now, Peggy, I believe you've seen this movie, and, Mike, have you seen this one?
I have.
Okay, Tracey?
A long time ago.
Okay, did you like it more or less than I? 'Cause...
I think I liked it more than you did.
Okay.
I think because I like the aspect of, like, you didn't have to be next to Patrick, or in the same room, or even in the same hospital for him to fuck with your life.
Spoilers!
Yeah,
that I agree. That was
it's
cool.
1978, not my fucking fault. Yeah, I think I thought there was a lot creepier atmosphere because of someone who doesn't move, but he can still affect the world.
Yeah.
And there's really no controlling him. There's nothing you can do about it. Those kind of stories, like, I really enjoy those.
Here's the thing, though. That is a big part of the story. They don't emphasize it enough. You know,
yeah, they could have done a little more. Yeah,
and it isn't like there's nowhere to hide. They at no point say that. And one of the characters is just locked in an elevator for a while, and I'm like, relax, relax. You're not in there for 3 weeks yet. You're in there for like an hour. Calm down. You know, but anyway. It is a time of the show where we, I press buttons and we wait for a show. There we go. It's a time of the show where we talk about upcoming events, and in 23 days, the Ohio Fan Fest, which actually will have Bill Moseley, who we discussed earlier in the show tonight, will be there. Lots of wrestling names. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, that's what Bill Moseley is there for. There will be a reunion of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's Saturday morning cartoon show personalities. It's a real mix. It's in the Metroplex Expo Center in Girard, Ohio, which is near, I think it's Youngstown. But something for you all to check out. And we want to remind everybody as well that most of our panelists tonight have websites of their own. Tracey is at TraceyDeLeon.com. And then we have, okay, there we go. Peggy is at themonkeyIsIn.com. And you do have to type the in there, themonkeyIsIn.com. And then we have Mike is at thedragonsroost.net. There's something about using the article the.
Something about the definitive article that writers like. I don't
yeah,
know.
these writers, these writers, this is what they do. I don't know why. And then, not at theotherworldlyculture.com, but otherworldlyculture.com just by itself. Come on, there we go. Our website continues to sputter along there as we go into the summer season, where we won't have as many podcasts. We have one podcast left. That's right, just one podcast left of this season. And yeah, we're almost through with this season, and then we're going to go through the summer, and we come back about the time that school time happens. So I guess back to school would be the time of year. So when you're out buying erasers, it would be the perfect time to check out your friends at otherworldlyculture.com. Of course, we also do have articles during the off time that we put out there. So check those out. I'm going to see if I can get this to work one more time. Let's see. Yeah, nothing is happening. There we go.
Oh,
there we go. There, he's back. He's back, everybody. He's alive! So, I want to thank all of our panelists. I thought we had a great show. I hope everybody can check out the movies that we deemed worthy. We hope you made you interested in some of these movies. Despite what I said with Patrick, I think it's a movie worth seeing. I think you should check it out. And you know, all these movies I think were worthy tonight of checking out. So check them out the next time you're running around with one of these. Just hit one of the buttons and something will work. And I do have links to them in our show notes. So if you can't find it, click on that and it will get you to some platform that has it. It may not be free, but we'll have some place where you can see these movies. All right, so that's it for tonight. We want to wish you a great springtime. And remember, when you aim... What?
It's slipping here.
What's going on?
I just rolled her eyes so hard I actually heard it.
Oh, well. See, we can't have Peggy and Tracey together. This is what always happens. It degenerates, like, immediately. Anyway, every time I look down at the script, they're up to things. And at least Tracey doesn't have the dog jumping on her right now, as she was doing earlier. But anyway, let me end the show. When you aim at horror, make sure that you are dead on. See you next time.
everyone's just.
Stop picking on the host. No picking on me.
I don't think I'd get you laughing that hard, Tracy. But
Girl, that was great.
holy shit, my eyeliner's like running everywhere. Fucking God. That was funny. Okay.
That was funny. That was a good one.
Hurtful. Hurtful. Hurtful.
Michael's reply. That was good.